But then in 2007 is when we have elections. So we go and vote, and then we have post-election violence. So business just kind of slows down through the next year. It was interesting because all this work and the millions we had made, they kept us going for a bit actually. When I think back, if we didn't have those reserves of the millions we had made from the oil Libyas and the like, it wouldn't have pushed us.
Had you changed office at this time?
So that's and that's when some of the mistakes began, because at that point we are making money and everything. And then another issue comes up. There's a regulator in Kenya called National Industrial Training Authority. That time they were called Directorate of Industrial Training. There's a levy big companies pay to NITA, and that time DIT. And I guess as something to encourage companies to train people, if you pay that levy, if you used NITA certified trainers, then you'd be able to claim some rebate from government. So it was an incentive for governments to train people more. But by the time Oil Libya was getting to pay us our second check, because they had very good systems where they used to claim that money, they asked, are you guys NITA satisfied? That same look of ATR. We look at each other for what is this DIT certification? So we go and we start looking at the requirements of how to get that certification, because they said, hey, if you guys don't have it, we can't continue working with you guys until you get it. We thought it was going to be a no-brainer. So we started going through the application process. The business began a downward spiral for a while from there, because it's almost as if the DIT guys had done sensitization across companies for don't work with people who are not certified.
Yes.
So now every pitch after that, it would end with, are you certified? And we would find out we are not. But anyway, we went and started the process thinking it was going to happen rather quickly. I think this is the first time that now we encountered the Kenyan government. Corruption, yes. Because they came first to the Scripture Union. They have to come and assess your premise to make sure you have an office. You have to put in all your certifications and stuff to show that you have the credentials to do this thing and all sorts of things. So when they came to Scripture Union, because it was a sublet office and you need a lease registered with the Ministry of Lands, it means you have to be the one on the lease. So it meant for as long as we were in that sublet office, we were not going to get that certification. So we had to look for another office. That's how we ended up at Navigators. Looking for an office that can give us a lease. So of course, now we have to go through we had the money, so we moved to Navigators. But now because we were taking up the entire lease and space ourselves, we now wanted to sublet to somebody else so that we are able to afford, because it was a lot of money. I think it was 100K per month type of type of rent. And while we had some reserves, it was depleting quite fast, especially with this new arrangement. And then we are in post-election era. So here we are trying to get the NITA certification. Money is running out. The people we moved in with and sublet to, their business got into trouble, so they stopped paying rent. So the entire burden now shifted to us.
Okay. Because you're not the only one who's going to post-election violence.
Yes. So we were taking the entire burden of paying that. They come, do a second inspection. They're like, okay, this one, yes. Okay, just give us the lease registered with the Ministry of Lands. So we ask our landlord to give us a lease registered with Ministry of Lands. Landlord sends the lease to their lawyer. Their lawyer sends us a bill of 200K.
What?
To pay for them to do that process. So we're like, wait, why didn't you should have told us we can use our lawyer, he's much cheaper. We start running battles with the landlord. By the time we finish this whole run around of trying to get that certification, we are completely in the red, because it's been several months. We're not generating any income. There are no new deals coming through.
You don't have that.
We are bleeding because we are whatever. We don't have that 200K to pay for, that lease now to be released. So here we are stuck.
Okay.
So, it was terrible, but it ushered in something new and very interesting.
Even before, we're not living this era. This is the era where, so now this, I think the statistics of how many SMEs survive past the first year or even 5 years. 0. But the thing is this, the question is this, this is where you are right now. This situation that you're talking about, this is what now is just like, by the way, forget it. I don't need this to go. So
yeah,
how are you surviving? Like, let's remove work. How are you paying rent? How all of these other things happening?
So
no kids at this time.
I mean, yeah, no kids, but we are both married and taking, we're in relationships where we need to be men and take care of responsibility as well. And of course, while we are splitting it with our wives, we were in that phase where we've entered,
okay,
a new
okay, so
era.
at least that's one. They're splitting with the wives.
Yeah. So
okay.
At least, well, David's wife was much younger though.
Yeah.
In fact, she was going through school, so there was responsibility to handle, and our situations are not exactly the same. But this is when we started to question. Look, until we get this certification, this business on the side of corporates is going to dry up completely. So we started to ask ourselves, how else can we survive? In fact, what space can we enter that's not regulated by these guys so that we continue to be in business? So two things had started coming up. One is that the companies we were training, we always used to get feedback for your training is awesome. People are inspired, but they are going back to work in a work environment that doesn't allow for that new inspiration and new type of thinking.
Oh, I get.
So what would happen in many companies that even people would leave and look for greener pastures in companies that can allow for their innovative thinking to be absorbed. So part of a net effect of our training is that people would leave. Yeah. And so when we started to dig deep into why that would happen is we realized organizations were not structured in a way that could absorb that new type of thinking. So if it was multinationals, you are simply implementing global strategy. You no room to think, you just do what you're told.
Yeah.
And if it was local businesses, they didn't have that,
conducive
didn't have a
environment.
clear vision,
Okay.
didn't have a strategy of where their business is going, they didn't have a plan to innovate. So one of the things we started to think about is, can we do something around helping organizations fix themselves fundamentally? So we built a tool to do organizational assessments. So we would deploy like a poll to staff, and they would give us feedback in terms of, do they know what the company vision is? Are they engaged to it? Do they understand what the company strategy is? And when we would give that feedback to the company, they would be like, okay, so what next? We can see we don't have a vision, we don't have a strategy. Who's going to do it for us? And we realize, okay, there's an opportunity to help them to do that. So we take them through a process to help them figure out what their vision, their purpose statement is, and all these sorts of things.
What?
So the consulting side of our business started. When we'd finish with vision, purpose statement, they're like, okay, who will help us do the strategy that will help us to get there? We went, created our own framework of strategy consulting. Of course, you go online, do some research here and there. We come back with a framework, we take them through. They start to implement it. Things start to work out. They begin to grow as a business.
Dude.
So we realized consulting was not regulated by NITA. So we didn't need that NITA certification to do consulting.
So did you open up a new company for this?
No.
You still
so
did it under Wylde?
we started to do it under Wylde, and that's when we started to realize that people were actually training people is like at the tail end of a working organization.
Dude, let me tell you why what you've said for me is so mind-blowing. At FOAB Digital, our aim was to execute 360 digital for companies. You get? But before I even begin having a conversation about your digital strategy, I'd be like, what's your vision? And who are you targeting? If you tell me I don't know my vision, I wouldn't even touch you. I wouldn't even bother like working with. I don't care how much money you put on the table, because I'm just like, this is a headless chicken running. It
gets very difficult to implement.
Because today you're saying we're going to Mombasa, the next day you'd be saying no, we're going to Kisumu, and yet we've just done. So what you guys were exactly what you're saying. You're the tail end. You were at the tail end, but then you decided.
We're dealing with people.
There's other
more fundamental things
that we can create. But what even mind blows me is that you created it first and foremost with the tools. So the feedback wasn't coming for you. You are just like, pay us to use this tool to figure out what to get information, and extract information from your employees about what they think about your company.
And those tools were very simple at the beginning. They were like just questions, and then based on the feedback, we kept iterating them, saying this question is not necessary, this is an overkill, nini. So we just kept improving those tools. If you see them today, they are extremely, extremely robust tools.
So how deep did you go into this rabbit hole? Because now you're like, even before you get to the training, this is such a fun convo. I love this, because what I'm hearing, but I'm also understanding why Sandbox then is so beautiful.
Yes.
Because I've seen it. I'm just
You've seen it coming from
Let me
far,
put a light bulb here. That's what's just happened.
Yeah.
I've seen your insight into Sandbox, because as an entrepreneur, those are all the questions
that we were answering as we went along. Yeah.
And even before you start whatever and talking about your office premises and that you need, have you even understood your vision? Here, have a conversation with.
Yeah.
So is Wylde International one of the 33?
Yes. Yes. And that's where it all began. Because when we started with, and it eventually ended up building a framework that we called the 4-pillar framework for Wylde.
Okay.
For a successful organization. So the first one is